arts, and then the environment was cleaned up.
The first time I was hearing about this stuff, it was totally new to me.
With social impact consulting. He advises the staff and board on program planning, funding, and implementation. He also serves as a member of the board of directors, the Network of West African NGO Platform, REPAOC, and an African NGO Council. At A4AL Nigeria, he is the champion for the Consumer Advocacy and Pricing Transparency Working Group, which he focuses on protection of digital consumers to advance access and affordability. He is also the co-chair for the Open Government Partnerships Citizens Engagement Technical Working Group. Allow me to introduce to some and present to others Oyebisi Babatunde Oluseyi, the Executive Director of the Nigeria Network of NGOs.
Hello, Mr. Oyebisi. How you doing? I know you don't like me calling you Mr., but just work with me here. How you doing, sir? Good afternoon. I guess it's 12 o'clock.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot for having me.
No worries. Thank you so much for your time today, because I know you are an extremely busy man. Like I was telling the audience before, I have been watching the work of NNNGO. There are some people that don't really do a lot of talking, they do a lot of working. And I just see the way NNNGO has really been impacting society by empowering nonprofits around the country, and even being a voice for our brothers and sisters around the continent. So well done, sir.
Thank you for your kind words.
Okay, so we're going to get started. So now, when did the NNNGO founders discover the need for institutional strengthening in nonprofits?
This was sometimes in 1992 when the founding executive director, whom I took over from, Ms. Yemisi Ransom-Kuti, was called into a meeting with the Minister of Health at that time on the need for there to be civil society involvement in government effort to address issues around drug trafficking. So they needed civil society to come into that space and to support government's efforts. However, when that issue was a bit sorted, everyone went their ways. Then HIV/AIDS came about again, and she was called upon again to say, we need civil society to help. It was at that point that she said to herself, rather than we doing this informally and ad hoc, can we have a permanent system that can help us bridge that gap and bring civil society into that space of educating, raising awareness, and also ensuring that we can work together without losing our independence as a sector. So this was in 1992. About 60 nonprofits came together, and with the World Bank, with multilateral organizations, with the federal ministry and the federal government as it were then, the Nigeria Network of NGOs was formed. And it was at that point that we started seeing the need for there to be institutional strengthening. Because part of the mandate when we started was that we would identify NGOs, we would build their capacity, we would coordinate activities together and ensure that we monitor government policies and provide feedback to government. That was the mandate we had in 1992. So you would say that within our mandate is that of capacity building, which extends further to institutional strengthening of nonprofits.
I see. That is a very rich history, an extremely rich history. Yeah. So and this was a time that nonprofits and governments were working in tandem with each other for national development, like our topic is really highlighting. Very interesting, sir. So now like you talked about, now you said you started at 60 NGOs. Now you're at over 3,000. So when you started recruiting members to join the network, how did the sector receive the organization, and what was that journey like?
So the journey has been quite interesting, and within the framework of non-profit activities, you're meant to be voluntary, and your membership also cannot be forced. It has to be voluntary. So as a network, we took a strategy of saying to ourselves, what is the value add that we can bring to the table? We do not necessarily have to go out and to market ourselves. Let's ensure that the few members we have are able to speak about the network to others, and that way they're able to bring in more members. So as we speak, we've not actually marketed the Nigeria Network of NGOs to say 110% come and join us. What we've done is to focus on membership benefits. Of course, there are areas and room for improvement. However, we've ensured that we are the go-to person for issues around regulatory compliance, around non-profit management, around tools for the sector. And that has helped us in being able to grow from 60 to now 3,033 as at June 27th or something, when last I checked the database to be sure how many members we have. Those that have applied to say, we want to be your member, we want to work, we want you to, we want to come into the space and work with you on issues that you're working on as a network. That would be 3,033. And it's a long journey. Because we paid conscious effort again to some of the dynamics that we understood would help us be that platform that you want to join. One is ensuring that our newsletters goes out to as many organizations as possible. We ensure that we are communicating the way we should communicate. Of course, that could also be better, given the fact that, not many NGOs will read their emails, some would bounce. And we've also taken that further by investing in bulk SMS to ensure that you're not missing any of our emails. As long as you're on our database and there are critical information we need to send to you, we would send it to you via SMS and ask you to check your email. We've made use of technology a lot in the journey, and that has helped us to a great extent. Are we where we want to be? No. And that's why, in the next 2, 3, 4 days, we're also looking at our membership. We're strategizing on our best to ensure that the 3,033 that we have at the moment enjoys the benefit, and they're able to speak to another nonprofit elsewhere to join us. And we're also excited that big nonprofits are also joining us at this time. I was glad to welcome Act Corona Foundation into the membership of the network. In fact, they are the 333rd member, or 3,033rd member. I hope I get that right. 3033 member of the network. And we're so excited. We're excited also to count within the membership AROXA, which is a research non-profit on civil society. So, we have large and medium-sized and also the small-sized non-profits joining the network. And we're so excited about this development.
That is really phenomenal. So you're really talking about just serving the members that you have, so that by word of mouth, others would now hear, because they say in marketing class that the best way to market is by word of mouth. So
absolutely.
Then also strategically communicating with your members regarding things that are coming up. So that is really, really something. And then even recruiting larger organizations, to your network, which really should say something about the work that you do. So so now we're going to go into the resources that NNNGO provides for its members. What are some of the resources that they provide that keeps your base increasing?
One of such resources is information on how to ensure that you comply. For us as Nigeria Network of NGOs, our approach to regulations is that, yes, we do agree that there are areas where we need to improve on, and there are areas that are subject to abuse. But we have taken the participatory approach, which is, let us test this law and see areas where there are gaps and use evidence to support our advocacy for there to be change. So you will find us being able, or you find us working more, providing information to nonprofits as to, this is how you need to comply with this. These are the steps you need to take to comply with Section 1. These are tools you need to comply with Section A, B, C of the laws. So that's one resource that we provide. The other is to then help you strengthen your organization in fulfilling your vision and mission. So we do series of capacity building activities, from training you on how to manage your finances, to your board engagement, to how to write proposals, to how to engage with your donors, to fundraising, a whole lot of pack that we have within our membership benefits. We've not also taken that further to start a peer review mechanism where small nonprofits are paired with each other. You visit each other based on a checklist, you do an assessment. The gaps that I identified, we work with you in strengthening and bridging those gaps such that you are ready for being able to attract the right resources to your organization and also being able to implement your organization's activities professionally. So far, I think we have about 150 or 200 organizations undergoing a peer review mechanism at this time within the membership of the network. The other part of work that we also do is we open up our networks for you to be able to access funding. Where we know that a donor is able to fund XYZ, we find a way of bringing you into meetings with those, share your work with them, and then see how that can lead into you being funded. And I'm proud to say that we've used that strategy to fund like 40 or 50 nonprofits. Because as a network, we don't go into competition with our members. We help you to be able to do your work effectively. And that's why we're a network. And that's why sometimes we are resource poor as a network, because we're not in competition with our members. Another benefit that we give our member is also discounted services. We do understand that audits might be a bit difficult in terms of payment. So we spoke to a couple of auditors and said to them, what can you do for our sector? How can you come in a way that ensures that our organizations that are doing good work for the communities can be able to report their activities very well and stay transparent and accountable. So they agreed with us on a basic minimal fee that will be charged for nonprofits whose books of records are clear and fine. And I guess if I remember the figure, it's just less than 100,000 naira for you to be able to access that service. So these are some of the benefits that we have. And again, whether you are a member or not, because of COVID, we've also opened up our base to say whoever has issues with non-profit issues, from your registrations to SCUML issues, to understanding the law, to engaging with your board, to retooling your system, just pick up the phone and call us. Of course, we have a small team of dedicated staff. However, we're also stretching ourselves to ensure that we can provide as much capacity to many nonprofits as possible. As at the last time I checked also, I think we've trained about over 1,000 nonprofits across 32 states of the Federation. And these are physical trainings that we've done.
Amazing.
Again, we listened to what people, members and also nonprofits across the country are saying, that we're a national network. So we shouldn't just stay in Lagos. So I can confirm that we have gone to Borno to train. We've been to Kaduna, we've been to Port Harcourt, we've been to Benin, we've been to Kano, we've been to about 16, 17, 18 or thereabouts states across the country to actually train nonprofits physically on financial management, on board procedures, on nonprofit regulatory compliance, on how to even manage your staff, on human resources for nonprofits and all of that. So we're truly excited about how we have used feedback from members and also some of the stereotypes that we have as Nigeria Network of NGOs to expand and retool the work that we do.
So one thing that I've noticed is like you really worked on the plethora of benefits for your members to make sure that they actually have value for being a member of the network, making sure that they are compliant, providing capacity strengthening, helping them with fundraising, and actually physically going on location to actually provide that support. It's really something that you're making sure that you're present with your members. Though you have a small team a small team, you can have a small but mighty team that can do that expanse of work to make sure that your network gets what they need. So I just wanted to get into a macro level as a whole. Why do you think you've really spent a lion's share of your work as a network to strengthen the institutions that are members of your network? So why do you think this is vital for national development?
It is vital for national development because I've always said to myself that nonprofits are representatives of the issues that affect the common man, right? So they are not representing the common man, but they are representing the issues. So we understand the issues, and our understanding of those issues can help us to influence policy. And I'll give you an example. When you talk about street children at the moment, or children that need shelter, that space is resourced majorly between 80 and 90% by nonprofits, right? So you find nonprofits having shelters for girls, having shelters for boys, providing them food. Sometimes, the majority of the times, you find even government sending boys and girls to these shelters because nonprofits are servicing that area. And when you then look at the volume of understanding that nonprofits have on issues around street children, what causes it, how child rights can be implemented and effectively monitored, that alone, all right, if that institution or that sector or that area of our work, which would be those working on issues around street children, if they are strengthened enough, they are a resource for government to be able to address that issue, both from the point of practice, from the point of theory, and from the point of policy. Okay, because they're on the ground doing the work, they've seen the issues, they've heard the stories of these children. They're also helping them to have a life through mentoring, to providing an ad hoc family system for them. And it's a menace that we have across the country now. So if an organization or a nonprofit would have the right institutional capacity to be able to deliver on that kind of service, then we are helping government to be able to solve that problem. And that's why government itself must pay attention to our sector, to start looking at what are the resources we can get from the nonprofit sector, rather than creating an environment that is not enabling. They should focus on enabling the sector to be able to support them, of course, without losing our independence and without us also not, respecting the space of government. But we are critical partners, and my understanding is that if we're able to have, let's say we've got, this is anecdotal, let's say we have about 80,000 nonprofits across the country. If 80,000 nonprofits across the country would have the right system, be able to attract the right funding, be able to mobilize the right resources and the right staff, then we would see a dent in many of the issues that we have across the country. And nonprofits are sometimes the ones bringing hope to majority of communities in Nigeria. And they're an important stakeholder in national development and even global development. So having the right capacity means that we are having a sector that can support government and that can bring hope to people, to the common man, and help the common man address some of the challenges they have. Of course, this is not to say that government should abdicate its responsibilities. However, we understand that no one sector can solve all of the problems that we have now. So that is why for us, institutional strengthening for the nonprofit sector is vital. It is an imperative, and we must again accelerate whatever we are doing in that space. Both donors, both nonprofits themselves must build that right capacity to be able to deliver their vision and mission.
Thank you so much for that response. That was the initial thing that I observed in terms of some nonprofits. They have it. If you notice, nonprofits have passion. They have a lot of passion. They want to make change. They don't want to just complain. It's like, I want to make a change, and then it's like, okay, you need to have the institutional capacity to be able to do the work that you do. Now, and I'm going to talk to the audience. If you have any questions for Mr. Oyebisi, please put it in the comment section so that we'll be happy to answer them as soon as we're done with our line of questioning, okay? All right, now we're going to go, you alluded to something when you were responding to this question in terms of creating an enabling environment for NGOs to be able to thrive and support in national development. As you're already aware of, you're on the front lines in terms of advocacy, in terms of the shrinking civic space. So can you just, NGOs have been directly just various legislation back and forth about their work. So the civic space is shrinking. So can you just highlight some of your advocacy efforts on the shrinking civic space?
So since the 7th Assembly, we've had efforts by the National Assembly to come up with laws that would further regulate the non-profit space. Of course, our understanding is that some of these, the narratives behind the reasons for these laws is because of money laundering, terrorism financing. And we do also understand that majority of the times, the proponents of those laws do not really understand the regulatory environment for our sector. So what we've done in terms of advocacy is to, one, provide them information on the regulatory environment for the sector, and to do a critical analysis of the laws and the bills that they have come up with reflecting it, putting the touchlight of freedom of association and assembly on those laws to see whether they meet those critical tests, and then provide our feedback to government or to the National Assembly. Of course, we do also mobilize the sector against those laws, because majority of the times, all right, those laws are restrictive, and sometimes the way they are framed, you begin to look at what exactly are the intentions behind these laws. Our thinking from the work that we have done both in practice and in theory is that any law that would be developed by the National Assembly has to inspire trust. So you need a law that inspires trust in the sector, and a law that can guarantee the sector's ability to operate without affecting or without tampering with our freedom of association and assembly. And freedom of association and assembly has also been interpreted by the UN Special Rapporteur to mean that your use of funding and ability to have control over how you use your funding and how you transact your business is also part of freedom of assembly and association. So a review of all the laws that we've had so far, up until the 9th Assembly, the NGO bill, they've been very restrictive. And as the Nigeria Network of NGOs, we've come all out to say these laws are restrictive. Of course, doing very detailed analysis of clause by clause and how clause by clause analysis of those bills and laws and how they would impact civic space, including how they even affect the legislators themselves when you look at civic space from the political side of things and the democratic side of things. So that has been our own work. And usually in this terrain, because the way we do our work, we're, like I said, we're always participatory in nature. So we're not your regular. So there are steps to this. The steps we're saying is some would come out more vocal and more frontal about it. Some will go via legislative advocacy. Ours is more around educating you to understand the sector and for you to be able to make informed decisions based on the research that we have done, based on the critical analysis of the bills that we have done. And of course, we've always attended public hearings where we submit memos on these bills and on these laws, and also mobilize our membership to write letters to their legislators. So if you are working in Edo, we provide you the contact of your legislators in Edo so that you write a letter to them, let them know the impact of the work you're doing in Edo and why, when there's a law like that, it would affect the work that you do in Edo State. And we've seen a lot of results in that regard. And we'll continue to do this work. Part of the work we also do is to also educate the regulators on what it means to regulate our sector.
I was about
So
to ask you that.
yeah, so you find us
How
sitting down
will be received here?
with the Corporate Affairs Commission, with the Special Control Unit on Money Laundering, also engaging with the FIRS to say this is what we are saying in terms of implementation of this law, and this is what we think should change. And again, we are seeing some progress in that regard. And so the space is shrinking again on a large, when you look at it broadly. However, we all need to start engaging the process from the inside. That would be my thinking, to say, okay, provide evidence to regulators on why XYZ is not working, then mobilize the sector to continue to give them that feedback on why it is not working, then also provide solutions on how we can retool that system for it to enable the sector to work more effectively.
Okay. So, so what you're saying is that you're received well by the state actors. Have they taken on your recommendations? Are they working to implement it? Obviously, your advocacy efforts are taking effect because the NGO bill was dropped, and then but like laws like the KAMA law, I know I'm going into specifics now, things like the KAMA law, how do we get ready for that? Because some of those provisions, for me, are a bit draconian. So how are you preparing your members for from the shocks of implementation? Like, how is that going to work? Are we ready?
So, I mean, when we go into specifics now, of course, I totally share your sentiment. And my comment has always been, there's no law in this country that can't be abused. All right. So we should already ensure that there's a safeguard, especially for us as nonprofits. The other part is we're already seeing the challenges to implementation. And that's why I always like the participatory approach. For instance, we're all asked to send in our biannual statement of affairs by July 15. The regulator said we should send it via email. At some point, the regulator said, no, by July 12, we won't have it via email anymore, and it has to be online. Are you seeing how the communication is happening? And it's happening in ways that the regulator is not even sending us those information directly. If you are not on top of the situation, then you won't know. So I've had to glean the Corporate Affairs Commission's website, Facebook, virtually every day so that we're on top of some of these things. And we're documenting them so that we use those to retool those aspects of the law. Because regulatory compliance also comes with regulatory awareness and enough time for you to be able to comply. So for instance, the regulator send us an email as organizations that have registered to say, yes, your due date for XYZ is this. All right. So these are some of the things we need to start focusing on. Of course, it's a new law, and we understand there will be bottlenecks and teething problems. And that's why we should also pay attention to many of those dynamics. We're also seeing dynamics around organizations wanting to register now, and a clause that talks about maybe one or two persons can form a board. And so all of these implementation challenges are what I think we should now document and then take to the regulator to make a case for a review of the law. Because again, the regulator also, while KAMA was on, I paid attention to all of the narratives, both on the part of the regulator and on the part of civil society. And we documented those in a report on what we heard on KAMA. And also the citizens, all right? Citizens want our sector to be more transparent and accountable. And that is the value, these are one of the principles that our sector values a lot, okay? So it's like the public is preaching to the converted already, all right?
Exactly.
And accountability is the bedrock of the work that we do. However, there are concerns in the public about our work, and it is fine. There are concerns by the sector itself about charlatans that have come into the sector, and there are concerns by regulators, all right? Now, marrying these three together should be the basis of the work that we should all have done together, both regulators, government, and citizens and citizens organizations. All right. Triple NGO did a lot of consultations with its members and sent our members' voices to the National Assembly on what our members are saying about CAMA at the time it was being reviewed. And we also did a secretariat review, okay? And, what we have at the end of the day is not what you would naturally expect of a law. However, it has both its pros and its cons, all right? And we must, again, like I've said, while there's the legislative side, we've had the legal advocacy on it, so it's in court at the moment for some level of interpretations. The participatory approach that we have adopted is also to provide evidence to regulators to say, Clause A, while it is fine, Section B is problematic at the point of implementation. This is how it should be retooled, all right? And the regulator would go back and say, okay, we're looking at this and retooling it. That way, I'm sure we would have, of course, I would assume that would be an ideal environment for us to have some changes that needs to be done to that law, especially when a lot of those that are being regulated are saying, these are the challenges we are having, and this law needs to change. That would be my approach. Of course, I have concerns on those laws also. Of course, there's no law in the country that can't be used against you. And that has been my understanding and approach to this. And we must have the right safeguards. And I totally agree with you on having those safeguards and those oversights, especially areas where we need the judiciary to provide that oversight, and areas where we need an independent mechanism to also provide the oversight. CAC should not have all of those powers. I totally agree on that. However, we all need to jointly work together as a sector, not leaving it to a Nigeria Network of NGOs so we have so many networks in Nigeria. Are they also paying attention to what their members are saying about these laws? And can we at some point converge with what all NGOs are saying and put them into a report that goes to regulators? Can we also start having a regulatory indicator that we do every year to see which regulator is regulating us well, which one is not regulating us well, and use that as a benchmark for the sector? So these are areas I think we should start getting it into as a sector, not what we have at the moment. Yeah, of course it can be better. That's a bit of
I really like your participatory approach, because I realize that most successful organizing campaigns is usually participatory with the regulator and with the legislator to make sure that you're able to enact policy change. And I feel like this approach with regards to finding out some of the irregularities in the regulation of nonprofits should be highlighted and reviewed. So though the process is slow, but it has to start, which is what we're doing, and just making sure that. And I think that's the challenge with civil society, not just in Nigeria, but globally. It's like people keep working in silos and saying, okay, this is what I came up with, this is what we came up with. But if we can come together and come up with something that we all can actually stand behind, and hopefully maybe streamline all those regulations so that we are not so over-regulated, which is one of the biggest challenges. And one thing that I really I'm looking at with the work you do with regards to compliance is where you all are really focusing on that your members are compliant, at least to the best of their ability. And there's something you said that really stuck out to me in terms of, says any law can be used against you, which really is a caveat in all of this that we're really highlighting and talking about. So so my question to you now is this. Excuse me. So now you said that of course you're providing institutional strengthening and support for your members. So how do you feel like long term, over the past over 20 years that the network has been in existence, how has the impact of your members affected society as a whole? You can talk about it based on individual members or holistically, if you would like.
So let me start with COVID-19 and tell you. So we did a mapping of our membership, about over 100
zones to enable more organizations to participate. We will be glad to host in Ebonyi State. So that's just feedback that.
Yes, Ogalgo, we're happy to take the conversation forward with you, and as much as possible, we also want to get to all the states. It's a thing of joy, you know, when I was saying that we've moved and trained in about 16, 17 states, and also, you know, trained in about, you know, bringing about over 1,000 members from 32 states to these trainings. So we're happy to do that. We've done regional trainings in NNNGO. We've done in Port Harcourt, we've done in Imo, but again, employee is fine, and we're happy to also do that. Resources permitted. Yeah, we're also stretching ourselves out here. And Lagos people are complaining already that we're no longer doing more of Lagos.
You know, I actually conducted a LinkedIn poll, which was what I was looking for during our interview. I don't know what's been going on with LinkedIn these past couple of days, but it was like, are NGOs surviving or thriving? And you had a larger percentage of people saying surviving, and a few others were saying thriving. So so what you're saying is pretty much the consensus of what people are saying with regards to nonprofits and seeing how we can better thrive as organizations, pending resources, obviously. So I have another question from Mr. Bosuremi Ohiria. It says here, what kinds of commitments do you require from new and old members in terms of joining your network and the services you provide to them?
So I think the commitment we need is for members to engage with us. So we always say to them that before you think of recruiting a consultant, ask us first and see whether we can solve the problem for you. If we can't solve it, we'll tell you, okay, go and recruit a consultant or go and do X, Y, Z. For us, we want a membership that is engaging, that puts us on our toes to say these are the challenges we are having, and we can work to solve those challenges for them. And I just cited an example of how we have trained nonprofits, and we are taking that forward to say, peer review yourselves on these governance metrics, on this project management metrics. Come back to us with what the challenges are. We will come to you to solve these problems with you, of course, working with your system. I mean, I've had to join board meetings of many of our members in the last 3 weeks, educating their board members on what they need to do to ensure that the organization runs effectively. I've also had to go train directly non-profits in their offices. And all of these are just based on your membership dues of 5,000 naira. If you're in Lagos, I drive down to Lagos to your office. If you're in Abuja, we time it towards the time I'm in Abuja and we sort it out. If I'm coming to NNNGO and you have signified the interest in that, then we time it towards when I'm coming to NNNGO and we create that time to help you. Our interest is not just to have a network and say we have a network. We want a network where we can showcase impact, like I've done with when you asked me that question about what our members have done. We want to be able to tell you XYZ is doing this good work here. XYZ is doing that good work there, and we're proud of them. So our commitment is talk to us as your member, as your organization. Tell us what the challenges are. Of course, we have very limited staff. We have about 10 or so staff, and we are really, really stretched. But I know that we always prioritize, you know, the support we give to our members. I mean, just the other day, I saw my members helping a non-profit to review their proposal, which was due the following day, and they sent it to us very late also. So the proposal is due 48 hours. They sent it to us 24 hours too. But my colleagues raced to quickly help them review it and provide concrete feedback for them. And they were successful, you know. So these are some of the things that excites me about the good work that we do at the Nigeria Network. Of course, there are room for improvement as human organizations. We have our failings and we have our failures. So that's why in the next few weeks also, we'll be talking to our members about how we have failed and how we want to correct those failures going forward. Yeah.
Wow, that's really amazing. So I think some people just wanted to get some logistical information. I see one here from Mr. Olawale Peter Ale. He says, Mr. Oyebisi mentioned one NGO into research at COSA. I couldn't get the name.
No, I think it's Aroxa. Aroxa is,
Aroxa.
I can't remember the full acronym, but it's Aroxa.
Okay.
Aroxa is an African, I think it's a global civil society organization focusing on research on civil society in Africa. And I do have a conference in the next 2-3 days or thereabout. Yeah, but it's a big non-profit doing civil society research.
Oh, okay, then another one.
I'm glad to say.
Okay, and then one and Mrs. Nachi is saying, can we get the name of the organization providing prosthetics? Because I know you mentioned
it's the Irede Foundation. The Irede Foundation. Irede is IREDE. Foundation, and there's the Feet of Grace. If you search online, they have very strong online presence, and I'm sure they'll be able to help.
Just a quick note, I interviewed Crystal Chigu of the Irede Foundation last week, so you can check my feed and you will find out all the information you need about the Irede Foundation as well.
And I'm proud to say they are members of the Nigeria Network of NGOs.
Exactly. So I just wanted to thank you so much. This was a wonderful, exciting conversation. So I wanted to get a sense of your final thoughts. Yeah,
my final thoughts would be to thank all the nonprofits across the country for doing a good work. Because of them, communities now have more hope. However, in the work that we do, we now need to ensure that we're not creating more problems for ourselves. Attempts to ensure that you have your governance system right. Your board meetings are held regularly. There's oversight on the work that you do. Your books are properly kept in ways that ensures that if a regulator decides to come to your office, you'll be able to have 90-95% pass mark. We must now move from passion to business. When I say passion to business, it's not to make money. However, it's to say that around that passion, ensure that you have very strong ethics, very strong ways of doing work. And you're able to track and measure the impact of the work that you do. Added to that also is the conversation we now need to start having on the need to attract the right talent into the sector. You want to also be able to pay better so that when people come into the sector, you can bring people from Stanford, from Harvard to work in the nonprofit sector in Nigeria. But these are bigger conversations, and we need to start having them now. Because if you want a sector that has standardized practice, humans are the ones that would implement those practices. And recall that nonprofit is not taught in any school here in Nigeria. Of course, it's taught outside of the country. We must also explore those conversations with universities. How can we, bring, especially for those maybe doing business administration or those doing work around sustainable development, how can we have a curriculum around nonprofit management and where we teach them how to actually work in our sector. But beyond that, we're doing fine. We continue to pay attention to laws that can shrink our space. We continue to flag the challenges. And that's why I would also plead that when you see any organization asking you to fill survey questions around civic space, please complete them. They help in being able to advocate on issues that would enable our sector to operate effectively. And thanks to all the organizations on the front line doing very good work to protect our space. May God bless all of us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Oyebisi, Babatunde, Oluseyi, because I know that a lot of very strong Yoruba men like you to say their name in full.
No.
It's true. And I think one of my former pastors in Chicago, he was like, no, you say my full name,
Yeah, but you who told you I'm Igbo, I'm an Ambra by nature.
I think it's just being an African man as a whole. It's like a lot of times they want to shorten our names and then we're like, look, just say my full name. So there are some of us like that. So
I think it's about names. It's about names and what it connotes to all of us as humans in the world. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'll I've been looking forward to this interview for a very long time, and you did not disappoint. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, thank God for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, sir.
And you too. Enjoy the holidays.
You too. Well, you heard it. It was a really, really awesome interview on, civil society institutional strengthening for national development. So thank you for watching this episode of Dev Sector Series with Oyebisi Babatunde Oluseyi, who is the Executive Director of the Nigeria Network of NGOs. I hope you enjoyed this session on building sustainable nonprofits for national development. Just a quick announcement. The next session of Dev Sector Series is going to be with Dr. Kole Shetima, the Director of MacArthur Foundation. We're going to be talking about their extensive work on anti-corruption in Nigeria. You do not want to miss this. Also, the Social Impact Masterclass e-learning beta launch will be online in the next couple of weeks. I've sent some of you all emails to join the private Facebook group. Make sure you do so. If you're interested in and you are on this live streaming, just send me a message, send me a WhatsApp message, and I will link you with the Facebook group. I will wait till it grows to a certain number, and then we will begin engagement. You don't want to miss this. If you want to participate, just indicate it. I'll reach out to you. So again, thank you so much for watching this episode of Dev Sector Series. Enjoy the rest of your holiday and see you next week.